Well, here's my concern. I don't mind. I love free speech. It's what I do. I'm lucky to be able to take advantage of it every night here, and I try to be responsible about it, although I'm provocative like some other people, and we have to keep it in limits. But let me ask you what I'm concerned about, and you're the expert on this. And I'm not going to be too verbal here or too literary because I don't want to give anybody the wrong idea, so I'm going to speak in a bit of code. Back in '63, when we had a terrible situation happen in this country, we never got over it in November of '63, most of us who lived through it. It was a violent act against someone, and a violent act we believe was carried out by someone in the sort of the far left, if you will, the communist sort of oriented world. But the atmosphere in which that occurred was far right and horrible. The hatred of the target of that violence was so much from the right that I worry that a mood is created, a license almost, for violence. And I'm afraid we're getting into it. Your thoughts?
I think it's a legitimate worry. I think the tone out there is really something remarkable. I lived through, as a reporter, the militia movement of the 90s, and, some of the rhetoric out there was quite astounding. But, I think the fact that we're hearing it so much more in the mainstream from people who were, among others, a candidate for vice president of the United States is really quite scary. And, nothing I'm saying is an attempt to suggest that people's speech ought to be limited. I mean, as you said, it's a great thing in this country. But, when you get these people who are relatively mainstream, who have television shows or who are Congress people, and who are saying things that are just absolutely false, made up out of whole cloth, the sad reality is that this gives a feeling of license to people out there.
I agree with you. Let me ask you about...
There are a lot of studies that show that...
What's the connection between carrying guns...
there are a lot of studies that show...
Carrying guns... flaunting them, basically flashing them like this guy in public, not right to carry. This isn't about constitutional rights. It's about flaunting your right to carry a gun. In public events, this claim that a lot of people on the right are saying the president isn't an American, really. He shouldn't be president. Obviously, he's not an American. That's what they're arguing. And this anger about health care. How does it all fit together with the militia movement and the things you're worried about?
Well,
Violence.
I mean, in some cases, there's a real through line that we're seeing. This fellow Ernest Hancock, who is the radio talk show host who put up the fellow named Chris in Phoenix, who appeared with an AR-15, strapped to his back at the town hall that President Obama was given, was very much a militiaman. This guy came out of not only groups that were support groups for militias, but went public in a big way. The same is true for the several people we have seen and heard from talking about watering the tree of liberty with the blood of tyrants. I think it's worth remembering that was a central slogan of the militia movement. And at the end of the day, those were the very words that Thomas and Jefferson paraphrased that were on the back of Timothy McVeigh's shirt when he blew up the Murrah building in Oklahoma City.
What role do you think? What role do you think?
Seems to me is twofold.
What role do you think Glenn Beck plays in all this? Open question.
Well, I think he plays a very nasty role. I mean, Glenn Beck will tell you with great indignation that, he didn't float the theory of FEMA concentration camps. He debunked it. But, of course, the reality is that for 3 shows, Beck went out there and speculated about whether FEMA was secretly running concentration camps into which to slam good patriotic Americans, and in the 4th show announced to the world that he had debunked it. I mean, look, to me that is the same as positing for 3 television shows that the earth is flat and then announcing with great aplomb at the end that indeed it is not flat. The reality is there are thousands and thousands of people who listen to a Glenn Beck and who believe that he is an authority figure, and therefore there's probably something to it. FEMA really is out there setting up concentration camps to do in good Americans.